As far as like
Okay.
everything really, but if you want to put it into this specific situation, there are pieces that we have control over. And it was actually really cool. I should have added this image, but I just thought of it. Like my son's fourth grade class just did an exercise that like it almost looked just like this, except for it was just like the control and then the other circles weren't. And it was like they had to fill in what they were in control of. And then on the outside of that circle, they had to put things that they were not in control of. And so things that are go inside of that would be like your actions, your responses, your feelings, your thoughts, like things that are related to you. You have control over those. Um, and then on the outside, if we just take the bigger concept, like there's other things that like like the kids would be like the weather, other people, what we're studying in school, like so there's things that are out of our control. Um, and that's where other people fall into is this like outside of us. And so our husbands, their responses, their emotions, their feelings are not in our control. But then in between those, and that's where we have to like just accept and trust and release that, you know, to God and realize like as much as we want control over it, like we never really had it to begin with. But there are things we can do in this middle circle that influence other people and can influence the way like our situation, um and what we're doing, and we do have influence other over other people. If you think of your kids, like your influence over your kids is a lot stronger than your influence over your husband. You have a little more control, um, over this circle with kids than you do with adults. Um, but a lot of times, like down here, I don't know if you can see the bottom, it says anxiety and frustration are caused by trying to control things that we are really not in controllable, or we aren't in control of. They're not controllable. Um, if you think back to like what my son wrote in the weather, like we're not in control of that. We have to just accept it and real. This is really hard. This was a huge piece of what I had to work on, with uh throughout my healing process. It's still work that I'm doing because this is a journey, right? It's not a destination. And I still struggle with thinking that I'm in control of things or wanting to be in control of things. Um, but as far as like what you have control over, your work is really you can, finding your voice and then rediscovering your worth and your value and understanding what that is and doing the work you need to make sure you are living and believing in your worth and your value and having confidence. um that's where like knowing your vision, that's in your control. um you can create boundaries for what you are and you are not okay with, and then you can watch his response and collect data about how you want to move forward. And that's where you kind of step into the influence category. When you can find your voice and communicate what you are and you aren't okay with, then you get to have some influence over what happens next, and where things go as inside of a relationship. um, you are in control of your self-care, which is huge. uh, that you've experienced something extremely painful. uh, I would call it a trauma. It's a traumatic situation. And so the need for self-care is huge. Um, and what that can look different for different people, but you do get to be in control of how much time and how you invest into self-care. Um, you do get to have control over the knowledge and the tools that you gain, as you work through this, and getting the knowledge and the tools you need to take the next step, whatever that might look like. And then your work and what's in your control eventually is to offer forgiveness, which I think is a huge piece, but can't be rushed. But extending forgiveness is in your control, um, there. And that is something where he can like his behaviors may influence how easy that is, but ultimately the forgiveness comes from you. I will say for both of you, I know both of you desire for your relationship to be healed. And that, I think, well, I know in order for your relationship to be healed, both of you need to do the work. And so if if the goal is for the marriage to be healed and healthy and not just stay married, the betrayer will need to take full acceptance and responsibility for his actions. He'll need to repent and turn away from them and stop the behavior that's on the unhealthy sexual behaviors. He needs to commit to his own recovery with a counselor or a group, because he'll need accountability outside of you. You cannot be his only accountability. And then he needs to do whatever it takes to restore the trust and allow you to heal without defending himself, blaming or deflecting, minimizing what's happening or what's happened or what is happening. And then he also doesn't get to control your timeline or the steps that you take, but will need to be supportive of the process that you're in to do that. So when you see those things happening, that's a good sign that your husband, that your marriage can be salvaged. But like I said, this is scary and hard. Like I remember kind of figuring some stuff out about like knowing, okay, I need these things. And then what I realized is like at this point, I know what I need, I know what I want if I'm gonna stay married. And it involves some of those things I just said. And now that I've figured that out, I kind of have there's three ways this can go, right? He can do the work. He can do the work and your marriage will get stronger and better than it ever was before. Because you both have a voice and you're having these hard discussions, and he's doing the work to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and understanding why it happened, and you're doing the work to figure out like how to stand up for yourself and communicate what you need, and really have those hard conversations that a lot of marriages most likely don't have even without this happening. So that's one way. Or he won't do the work, and we don't have control over that. We don't get to control whether our husband does the work or not. And then you have the two choices of either to stay the same inside of a marriage, accepting his unhealthy sexual choices are a part of it, or the marriage ends because you're unwilling to be a part of a marriage that involves you, him, and other people or images or whatever that is. And the second two are super scary. That's obviously not what any of us desire, but those are essentially the three choices that you have. But you do get to choose what you are and are not okay with, and you can find your voice and communicate it, and then you get to decide what you'll do. And that's for each woman to decide. And I think that depends on your situation and your values and what you want and what you're willing to, what your priorities are. And that's where the vision is helpful. And then ultimately helps you decide what you're going to do next.